have so much more respect to like general parents, my own parents, our parents, the generations before us. Because this whole journey is a lot. Like, it's really a lot. Like, when you think about it, I'm bringing someone to planet Earth. I'll be responsible for them, like, physically keeping them alive. That is whole. We don't talk about that. Like, what happens with the whole not actually arriving. And then you're supposed to teach them how this world works. Why we're all still trying to understand why the world works the way it is. Like, we all have questions. And yes, and there's a lot. So I really have a lot of respect because I know our parents didn't have the mental mindset or the mental space to think about that. They just had to function. So I have lots of respect. Hello, I'm Remi, and I am a whole parent, apparently, to a 2-year-old, 2 years and 1 month now, and together we live in the mango tree house. The denial. the first found out. I mean, I accepted, I want to say, not accepted, okay, I might be pregnant when I was 8 weeks. And it was interesting because before I went, my mom was in the country, and we went home, like to her home. We went to Bukoba, upstate, and visited my grandma, my bibi, and my aunt. And life has been hectic before, like things were happening, and it was just one of those, yeah, like you just want to go home and nyonya, and just be on your mommy's breast and not do anything else. So yeah, we took a trip, went home, and I remember just sleeping. I really just remember sleeping and everyone like caring for me and loving that they can finally take care of me. And my bibi, which is my number one person ever, and I mean, every bibi, they always say that, right? Like, oh, get a child. I mean, for the longest, you're not allowed to get a child. And then suddenly, you're supposed to have this whole consolations for having the child. And at one point, they're over all of that, and they're like, oh, just get a child. So we were at that stage, and she was telling me, a child is coming. And I'm like, yeah, baby, love you much. Keep dreaming. So that was a beautiful time spent. Denial, part 2. I think just life at that time. I was just going through a lot of life transitions. I was going through a whole new person I just met, that also very personal. I was going through professional changes. So when we say like ready, whatever that is, I was really not ready. And then when are you ever ready? I mean, shout out to those people who are like, yes, I admire you. But I wasn't in that state. And also I come from a manifestation of mind where I'd never envisioned myself as a mother. Like, it's like I knew I'd always be the go-to auntie. I knew I'd kind of be like different forms in people's life. And I've seen, one of the reasons, like, I've seen our ancestry go through so much. So even when that happened, and I mean, we're grown people, how do these things come together? And in my case, very happily wanted and in consent. So, but it was still like, oh my God, how, why, what is it that the universe wants to learn? Wants to teach me. So it was really, oh my God, no. But we slowly, yeah. I took my time. I think, okay, with the partner, it was, we in this process, and we had talked about it, and I was like, yes, it is what we thought it is. But luckily we're doing this with a person. Shout out to you, who's amazing in it. And I think the breathing, but yeah, I think with the partner it was like quite immediately, like low key, when you manifest things and then they come earlier than you think. So that was fine. Family, it took a bit, like I think 3 months down. So I took another 4 weeks just to be like, also there's this fear of like under 3 months if the fetus stays or not. So I think also just overcovering that kind of fear of, expectations and things like that. So yeah, when the 3 months hit, I called my people. Even though here and there I remember the first person actually calling, like the first person calling, and they held me through this day. So grateful to that as well. But with the rest, I really took my 3 months, and then slowly, and I think people just found out on the way. Yeah. I think, and again, super grateful that I had like what they call a so-called smooth pregnancy. Like I didn't have, the whole thing. Gratefully, I think it was the first thing. Yeah, like even after coming back, and then I was like, oh, I'm pregnant. And then I realized, oh, I wasn't able to eat like parachichi and chapati, which is my go-to food. Like that was the one thing which is like I wasn't able. Like took me almost the whole year to come back to avocado and chapati. I think it was physically also like the nipples. They were constantly in pain. I was just like, why? So I remember the nipples. My body took a bit, like, I remember, like, you were like, take all of these photos and you're also mentally processing. So I remember taking these processed photos of the belly. So it took like quite a while, like for me, I thought like it took a while, but 4 or 5 months to show that I'm pregnant. So, but I feel like the nipples, they were always hurting. So as I said, my body was fine. But about mental health, sheesh, was doing its best at that time, I think. And it was really the community, but I don't want to say the denial part 3 because like now we're in this acceptance part, but it's okay. So what has to change in life? What adjustments do I need to make? At that time we were living in a beautiful house with roomies and, but it wasn't like me imagining how or we as a community are gonna raise a child. So there were also so many things which had to be changed now in a time and space where things are already changing, the body's changing. But I think that was my struggle. My biggest fears and concerns was like, how are we going to do this? I don't know. Universe, please send help. I think one thing, but it's also just the healing trauma thing, was for sure the financial aspect of raising a child. Just being like, how are we going to afford all of this? Like living in town, doing this, living the lifestyle we were used to live. Yeah, that health. You're constantly afraid. And again, one of the lucky ones who really didn't have anything. But health. And then you are like trying to put those things together, like the body and the mind, and be like, there's a whole human here now. And am I really nurturing? And then I have to nurture me and do life. And You're all expecting me to do all of these things that was, yeah. And then obviously when you go down the road and you read these things and how many child death and mother death and the access and healthcare. So all of, like, it's a constant running down a spiral. Yeah, there were lots of fears. And I think, yeah. And this is the discrepancy to be like, oh my God, you're always afraid and there's always something bad just about to happen. And then at the same time, there's like, oh my God, there's a whole human who's growing in you, who's going to use your pathway to enter planet Earth and actually wants to be on this planet. So I think balancing those things, and I think one aspect for me, which is like the way it brought community, or it brings community together. Again, I've never been someone really imagining wanting to go through this, my own personal, like always ready to be there for all of them. Come, Auntie Remi's here. And seeing that I have so many other people who think the same way and feel the same way and show that love towards people, yeah, who go through this journey. And unfortunately, we still have to say that that's a privilege. Like, that's just basic need. There should always be a community around you that should be able to hold you. So that was obviously my joyful, and seeing my family bloom up, like just seeing my mom turning into a baby, which was like, we're working on our mental mindsets, but it's really joy, like seeing my siblings being, the uncles and aunties they are, yeah, that really warms my heart, and be like, oh yeah, planet Earth, there's hope. What comes? Denial, acceptance, and then it's the fight, right? Healthy pregnancy, prayers, fam. Prayers all day long. So again, life transition, professional transition. I had a health insurance, which I thought at that time. But then there's like, when you have to read the small print that they don't cover pregnancy in the first 2 years of your health insurance. Fam. And with financial anxieties being one of my biggest things to fight. But we did it. Like, I think, I want to answer so many things because you can't just pick one, right? To be like, okay, I'm going to try eat healthy, I'm going to move, I'm going to have that. Because again, having safer spaces, people around you, people who support you, people who bring you food. And again, shout out to the other parent for feeding us and all our friends and lovely community people, because you're tired, you don't want to cook, like life is happening. People tell you to move, but you're like, you're tired. Life is happening. But I think it's a commitment. I mean, let's not even get into the health insurance fight, because we really ended up fighting, and it took so much of my mental strength for me that I was like, I don't want to start this journey of raising a whole human and creating a life together in fight with an institution, right? So I think I did, and that might come maybe closer to the answer, that I went and looked for alternative ways of healing and birthing, even though I didn't end up doing a home birth, but I had lots of talks with doulas and midwives and other parents. And that was the healing process for me, to be like, how do I stay healthy, and what is it that my body needs to know? I mean, we love this baby now, but while I could not eat chapati, and for the people who've been on this journey with me, like, chapati is like my heel hair, like, so I was like, what am I going to eat now? So, and then, like the way we live in Swahili culture, and thanks to my extended family who was also really, really loving, but they're like, you have to do this, you have to eat this, you have to do that. And I was like, first of all, I don't eat any of these things. Like, I don't eat uji, I don't like urojo. Like, it's, I know, blame me. You're not allowed to eat that. And I was like, I just couldn't deal with that. So I just literally continued doing what I did. And sometimes it was like granola and yogurt the whole week. Yep. But exercises, I think before, I really tried. Let me be like, I just needed it mentally to be like, let me still move. And I think because the pregnancy still allowed me to be so mobile, I feel like I was constantly on the move. So it changed and it didn't change. Does it make sense? Yes. So we are going to talk about it. I mean, in the space of where I was at that time, and gratitude to the before me who carried us through, I was like, okay, if I'm giving birth, I'm going to be in the hospital, I'm going to be safe, right? I'm going to, I'd really envisioned my mom to be there, but she wasn't able to be in the country at that time. So there were so many things I was already dealing. So for me, I really had to go through what is safety for me. And safety is, at that point, was like the hospital setting. But then you look at these different hospitals and the access we have, and that really frightened me. Like, it really, really frightened me. The wards and halls and just the whole maternity setup is really bad. Like, I can't even. I looked at so many different hospitals, which they still called so-called middle-class hospitals. Class is a whole topic. So that really got me spiraling. So my friends and community and the village we live in, at the end, I again ask, and we did receive. I was like, I picked a hospital where I could birth with my partner, because that's also not allowed in Tanzania. Like, a male-defined person is not allowed to be in the ward. So it had to be a super private hospital, right? Which was like an expense of not the money I had at that point. And community jumped in and allowed us to have birth at that point. And because me also thinking I have a health insurance, and them saying, no, we don't do that. So that was, yes, that was the mental health. I didn't have health insurance. We paid everything out of pocket. I want to say we grew. Having this commitment of let's do life together. I think with us, like now, with a whole other human, is interesting. You know, all of you out there being like, yes, let's have family. Please do a master course. But it's impact, and I think we're doing great, all of us. And there's a lot to it. I think we were saying earlier, creating these communities where we don't come from, society, to be like, let's talk. What are the things we want to do different? For the people who've been on this journey with me, we live a bit different in the mango tree house. So there's been many aspects to it of like imagining together, dreaming together, creating, and having to be each other's soft spaces, because I want to say we really want to make a difference. So a village raises a child. Literally, that's my big blessing. All my people, like starting from partnership, my family, but who couldn't be there physically at that time, but was there emotionally, mentally, financially. I love you. And my people, like my friends, my homies, my girlies, my femmes, my other parents. Whew, oh, like people coming through, bringing baby clothes, bringing equipment, like feeding you. Again, we were publishing a whole magazine at the time, which means editing, back and forth, doing new appointments, people driving me, people loving me, hugging me. So, a whole village. Thank you. How did we prepare? I think it's just like this whole acceptance, engaging, what needs to change. I think for me, my big change was, again, moving out of my girly girl home and accepting that I'm moving into another village, like away from my people's village into an actual village where we still are today, and very happy and grateful because it's a different environment. But I think that was a big preparation because it took me a lot to kind of even go further away from what I was used to. Yes, and I think talking to midwives and doulas, again, I had such a great thank you to you, person who just walked me through, like, what is my body doing? What will happen when I give birth? What are different options? Like having the choice. Like people don't understand the power of choice. Like, wow, the stories we hear from other people who have to go through this alone, like completely, who are in woods alone with people they don't know, never seen, people who don't listen to their decisions. And I'm like, but I'm giving birth. So why is this not like a retreat? I should be being on a retreat with my people. Everyone welcoming me in a bath, flowers, prayers. But we're getting there. So I think creating these spaces, I had a beautiful conversation. So I did consciously go to elders and ask how they went through birth givings. I went to midwives, and I think I wanted that kind of a way to be like, how are we not educating, but how are we sharing knowledge with each other? So I'm very privileged that we actually did that. And that was so funny because baby actually came 10 days, like almost 2 weeks earlier. So I thought I'm still in preparation mood. Like I had no bag packed or anything. Even though I don't know if I would have had that even on day 0, but, so yeah, it was like, yep, jump. Baby tea, come a tea. So tea has multiple names actually. And for me, I know, when people say they have this vision, whatever that means, but, so T has my mother's name. We love you all. Otakia, and it comes from our maternal ancestral tribe, Wahayas. And I found out in my late 20s, I think that that's my mom's actual name, which I was like, but it's so beautiful. Can I have it? And not in the process of wanting it to give it to a child, but just like, it's my name. So for one reason, when we knew this person is coming, it was like from day one, it was just like, yep, it's going to, Otakia is coming, like, and funny because it's her baby's name, and then for my mom, it's her baby's name on both maternal and paternal sides. So it kind of was super special for me. Also, being in the practices I am of like rebirthing ourselves in spirits and welcoming our ancestral knowledge. So that was just one. And I mean, we all know our children will hate their names by the time they get to teenage life. So good luck with that one. And we ended up calling you T just because like, yeah, you choose your path anyway, and you choose the names you need to have. And, yeah, so T Kamati. I love the word birth plan. People actually have a plan. For me, it was my doula who actually was like, what do you need? What are your mental securities? I already knew my mom wasn't be able to be there. So I was like, my partner has to be there. Like, there's no way I'm going to be like in a room with people I don't know, who also don't want to understand my language, because privilege is also a problem in this society we live. And then, so there was a lot of things were to it. So we actually, thank you for making this birth plan with me. I didn't even realize it's a birth plan. I was just like, okay, tick, tick, tick. So we picked the private hospital and the remedies which were around it. And I remember also wanting to have this thing with my people, right? The conversations and open conversations. I think I was never someone who was like, when people are like, how is it? I was like, really difficult. So it was really beautiful to see how we were able to create these safer spaces together. But then actually on the day, like, you write all of these things down, like the things you want, the things you don't want, the medications you don't want, and learning through other midwives as well, like things which were able, I was like, I don't want any of this. Can I just try and be there and people hold me? So, so that's the birth plan, I think. Yeah, I think there are a lot. I think about myself, it's pretty easy that we did it. But just because it's scary, and I think I was so surprised the lack of support. Because everyone is hyping this process of birth, lazima uzaa, zaa tu, mtoto baraka, all of that. And then, luckily to my community it was there, but systematically there's hardly support. Like, you work almost to your last day, 8 weeks of maternity leave, like still healing, you hardly get information. That surprised me. I'm like, for a nation, for a community, for a world where we are apparently so open to this new life, right? And it was so paradox, because yes, people are friendly to you, they give you a seat, they're like, oh, baraka, baraka, but then you can't be held systematically. And I was like, but where's the full picture? So I think that really surprised me. Yeah. Find your people. I think really because again, the real truth about people is that most of us don't go through this kind of pregnancy. Like, they hardly have a partner who supports them. They are lucky if they have a household or the financial means to pick a safe space. Friends who are honest. People who are also overwhelmed. We don't talk about mental health issues. What about all the pregnancies which are not wanted, which have happened through rape and abuse and other things, right? So many people actually don't want to be pregnant, and we don't talk about that, and we don't hold space for that. So I really hope you've got your fam around, that you've got at least one person you can go to and just be, and literally just be. And I hope you find the words to articulate what you need, because you're creating a whole human. Like, that's what I said. I want to be on a retreat with my friends to be like, okay, it's time to do your exercise. Because it's a lot. It's a lot, my friend. It's a lot. You see, that's where they get us. You see, and then it's a shift, and then it's like, Life changed drastically. Like, I moved to the village. I live in a mango tree house and not in an apartment with pool and gym anymore. Um, and I give thanks for the fact that I can appreciate it and see that I've got one of the most beautiful lives lived ever. I think with a lot of the things, obviously it slowed down. Like, at the beginning, I thought my anxiety was like, but how are we going to do this? Mentally, financially, like physically, spiritually, so many of the things which I really thought, how are we going to do that? And as soon the baby was actually there, it took like a break, like, stop, just be there, and everything will work out, and we give thanks up to the day that it did. Like, financially, I'm like, wow, okay, we're actually healing our money traumas. Shout out to be living in a village. And it changed. Like, my bonds to people got way more intentionally because time is precious. Like, I'd be sitting out here till what time? I could be cuddling with a whole other human. Bye. So my life's way more intentional. Professionally as well, to be very conscious about how I want to spend my time. How do I want to get paid? For me, does it make sense? And this is privilege talk, I understand. To go to work every day so I can pay someone to be with my baby. Which if I get paid less, I can still be with my baby. So, yes, and the journey of mental health. Like, my child has really forced me to look deep and be like, okay, where is it that we need to heal so you can do a great job with me? So, yeah, here they are, the ancestors answering. Cultural background, says the cultural curator. Yeah, I'm Tanzanian by background, raised in Germany, and very much, yeah, so that, but I was like, Swahili culture would it be like, I don't know, go to your mom's house or go to your aunt's house, or, there was so much to it, and I was like, I think at that point, I was just like, we just need to do our own, and we just need to create what we need, because there's so much attachment and expectations, and like, utamaduni, and famira na desturi. And as much as we want to respect all of that, it really doesn't give people the openness and the spaces they need to be, because they have to fulfill other people's dreams, right? Like, one thing, a choice we made is not to be married, whatever that means. So that changed so much of our process by itself. So, yeah, let's create our own cultures. Yeah, we go again back to the complete honesty, and maybe that's the bridge to the cultural, why I missed out on the cultural essence, because I had so many questions and I didn't get the answers from where I thought I'd get them, like whether media or the family or in culture, to be like, but why are we doing this? And whether I wasn't supposed to talk about it, or it wasn't supposed to be shown, or you get too much information, like in the West, where like you can go and Google every little thing and then you're your own doctor and you completely spiral. So it was really trying to find the balance. But I think I was highly disappointed from media. Maybe not in my artsy friends that they, were like documenting the growth differently. But I wish, me personally, but obviously I talk a lot about mental health and culture and also ancestral knowledge and things like that, where I'm like, I wish we had more room to open up different forms. Like, also, what does it mean for a child to be born, to enter this world? What does this mean? What lesson are you supposed to learn? What are you supposed to learn about yourselves, and not only which color should the baby room have, which again, beautiful colors out there, but it's a both. It's like really learning into self. And I think that I didn't see in media. Like, obviously we have the educational information that is enough or even right, because I also see a lot of miseducation, which is also very sad, which doesn't give people the choices they should be having. So yeah, I think there's always work to do. And I know I say this with a finger and I'm like, are we creating this work? So it's a beautiful way that we are actually able to speak about our emotions and about feelings and going through this journey, because I think sharing our stories is just so immensely important. Yeah. Hmm. I mean, I'm still in awe of that we're here. That we gave birth at the end of the day. I even remember, like, because you were asking earlier about the birth plan and the birthday, and I was like, the fact that it actually did come, like did all of this research, I went to ask all of these questions, I really wanted to understand why I'm going through this new learning of being someone's parent and what that means, and then just the actual birthing, like even this baby just decided to come like way earlier. So what does it mean to be ready? And yeah, am I allowed to share my birth story here? I hope you know I tried. I really tried. Your aunties did great though. No, I think it was, like I look at those pictures back and you look at your belly and then you feel the first kicks and you're like, okay, you're there and you're already trying to envision how this human is going to be. And, just hearing the heartbeat and everything. And it's like, I hope you know that we really had a good time with you. And yeah, I show you the pictures. I have so much more respect to like general parents, my own parents, our parents, the generations before us. Because this whole journey is a lot. Like it's really a lot. Like when you think about it, I'm bringing someone to planet Earth. I'll be responsible for them, like physically keeping them alive. That is whole. We don't talk about that. Like what happens with the whole not actually arriving. And then you're supposed to teach them how this world works. Why we're all still trying to understand why the world works the way it is. Like we all have questions. And yes, and there's a lot. So I really have a lot of respect because I know our parents didn't have the mental mindset or the mental space to think about that. They just had to function. So I have lots of respect to those who go through war, through so much, through, name it, all of them, right? Our ancestors went through colonialism and raised children, right? Post-independence political structures. Right now, just open the news and you're like, this is the world. And yet we are raising children and seeing hope and seeing love and manifesting children into our lives, right? So there must be hope. So yeah, mtoto ni baraka.